She was never pregnant at all. Instead, the videos embolden conspiracy theorists. They're calling it Megspiracy, and the pair are being subjected to yet more merciless ridicule. Princess Lilibet Diana had been christened. Why would they use a title for their children that represents an institution they loathe so much?
Harry and Meghan Markle's surrogacy scandal has entered the mainstream media domain. This crisis won't die down until the irrefutable truth comes out.
Harry and Meghan playing games that resulted in people unnecessarily questioning things. Again, every toxicity thing is result of them.
People are starting to whisper, and it's getting loud fast. A fresh wave of questions has suddenly taken over, and Piers Morgan is right in the middle of it, saying things most people wouldn't even dare to say out loud. He's bringing Archie and Lilibet back into the spotlight, and the way he's doing it is making everyone stop and pay attention. Now the internet is buzzing, trying to figure out what's real and what might have been overlooked from the very beginning. Meghan and Harry have kept their children mostly out of public view, with only a few photos and very limited appearances. Everything has felt carefully managed, almost too polished at times, and now people are starting to notice small details that don't quite connect. Piers is calling those moments out one by one, and it's turning into a bigger conversation than anyone expected. What's making this even more intense is how quickly people online are reacting. They're digging through old clips, past interviews, and timelines, lining everything up and spotting things they didn't notice before. The deeper they go, the more questions seem to appear. Meghan, known for staying composed in public, is now reportedly facing growing pressure as the attention keeps building. And as the noise gets louder, the focus is stronger than ever. This conversation isn't slowing down at all. So what exactly sparked all of this? And why is it suddenly everywhere right now?
This case about whether you think the birth was real, whether you think there was a surrogate, whether you think Meghan was wearing a moon bump. The fact is, Harry and Meghan lied. Buckingham Palace lied on their behalf. There was a complete cover-up over the birth of Prince.
Now they want to give their kids the titles of prince and princess, even though they don't live anywhere near the royal family. They don't do any duties. They do nothing to deserve it. They live in a mansion in Montecito in California and use their own royal titles to make loads of money.
That Harry and Meghan, it's a bit like criticising the police force. I often criticise the Met Police. My uncle was a commissioner in the Met Police. Doesn't mean that I don't believe in having a police force.
That's the question people can't stop coming back to, and it's getting harder to ignore. One of the biggest points being raised is about the Sussex titles. If Harry and Meghan continue using those titles in major deals, partnerships, and announcements, while also speaking critically about that same royal system, then what's really going on here? Piers Morgan isn't holding back on this at all. He's calling it out directly and labeling it as hypocrisy, and not in a quiet way either. In his view, those titles appear everywhere, from official statements to major streaming projects and brand moves. The Duke and Duchess of Sussex isn't just a title anymore. It's being used like a full brand that keeps showing up again and again. Now the conversation is shifting into something even bigger. It's no longer just about Harry and Meghan. It's about how those same titles are being connected to Archie and Lilibet and what that could mean going forward. People are stepping back and looking at the bigger picture, and it's raising a whole new set of questions. Names like Prince Archie and Princess Lilibet are now being pulled into the spotlight too. For some, it feels like a continuation of that same branding approach. More titles can bring more attention, more curiosity, and possibly more opportunities tied to that royal connection. Piers Morgan made that point very clear, suggesting there could be a business angle behind it all, and the way he said it instantly got people talking.
You can criticise the monarchy and say, here are the fault lines, and do it clumsily.
But why would they want to inflict on their children royal titles that make them part of the royal family worldwide and expose them to the misery and pain and trauma which Harry tells us he suffers on an hourly basis? Normally for large checks, by the way.
Prince William doubles down. According to multiple sources, it's now a matter of when, not if, he strips Prince Harry and Meghan Markle of their royal titles.
What's really pushing him to speak out even more right now is how quickly the focus is changing. This isn't just about past interviews or old headlines anymore. It's moving toward the future, especially when it comes to Archie and Lilibet and how they fit into everything. And this is where things start to feel more serious. Once children become part of a public conversation like this, people naturally begin to look deeper. What do these titles actually mean for their future? How might it shape their lives as they grow up? And is it right for them to be part of such a high-level spotlight this early on? These are the questions now being asked more openly. Piers keeps pointing back to one key moment, the Oprah interview. He describes it as one of the most impactful interviews aimed at the royal family. That conversation didn't just make headlines, it shifted opinions, divided audiences, and sparked debates that are still active right now. In his view, everything happening today connects back to that turning point. The statements, the reactions, the global attention, it all built the situation we're seeing now. And with Archie and Lilibet becoming a bigger part of the discussion, the pressure around it feels even stronger. The questions are getting more direct, opinions are getting louder, and it's becoming harder to overlook. What once felt like a personal situation has now grown into a much wider conversation about identity, public image, and what these royal titles really mean today.
Well, Harry and Meghan have never provided any evidence for that highly incendiary claim. It's not like they haven't had the chance to. After all, they pumped out 6 hours of self-indulgent bilge on Netflix, trashing Britain and the press for its racism.
They're legally covering their backs. There's just too many unknowns. And then, of course, we have that the doctor that allegedly delivered Lily quit her practice 2 weeks after giving birth to Lily or delivering Lily. That sentence there is missing.
That they kept telling the world how ghastly the monarchy is. It's a prison camp.
During that headline-making interview, Meghan shared that Archie was not given a royal title, linking it to concerns about skin tone, and that moment quickly drew worldwide attention. It was a serious claim that spread fast, with strong reactions coming from all sides as it played out across global media. Piers Morgan responded immediately, and he didn't hold back. He argued that the claim didn't align with how royal title rules are structured. He pointed to long-standing guidelines, going back to King George V, explaining that great-grandchildren of a monarch don't automatically receive prince or princess titles under those rules. At that time, Archie didn't meet that criteria, and Morgan has continued to question how that message was presented, especially given how widely it spread and how many people were influenced by it. While the royal institution didn't respond publicly, that silence added even more tension, because people were left to interpret everything on their own. And now, all of it is circling back in a major way. That same statement is being brought up again, with some suggesting it may have influenced how titles for Archie and Lilibet were later handled. When something that big is shared on a global stage, it doesn't just disappear. It sticks around, shaping the conversation and keeping attention locked on everything that follows. Behind the scenes, talk is growing that the palace is now reviewing every detail connected to the children's titles and roles much more closely than before.
All the royals want to get away from it, but they can't because they're trapped in the world of titles and privilege. And now they want to give their kids the titles of prince and princess, even though they don't live anywhere near the royal family. They don't do any duties. They do nothing to deserve it. They live in a mansion in Montecito in California. Meghan's Netflix series, released to the world this morning, is packed with, well, not really revelations, are they? It's sort of rehashed old revelations with a new twist. As it turns out, we've apparently been wrong all along. Britain is a nasty, racist hellhole where only magnificent Meghan stood up to all this, and the world's biggest victim.
Every rule, every record, every step is reportedly being looked at again. And there's a reason for that. When a topic reaches this level of worldwide attention, it naturally brings deeper scrutiny and tighter review. Things are starting to move fast now because Piers Morgan is no longer the only one raising these points. What started as one strong opinion is now being repeated across multiple platforms. And that shift is what's really catching attention. Reports connected to News Nation in the United States are adding even more focus, echoing what royal watchers have been discussing for weeks. This situation didn't just appear overnight, it's been building in the background for some time. Now it's no longer about one interview or one voice. It's turning into a much wider discussion that keeps expanding as more people weigh in. The pressure keeps rising, questions are stacking up, and the spotlight is tightening around the decisions involved and what they could mean going forward. The conversation has clearly entered a new phase, and people are watching closely for every new development. And just when it seemed like things couldn't get more intense, another twist shows up. Fresh reports suggest Prince William may be preparing for a significant move, according to multiple senior sources. This is being framed as a matter of timing rather than possibility, and it may not stop with Harry and Meghan. Those same reports suggest Archie and Lilibet could also be part of that discussion, putting all 4 names into focus at once. Piers Morgan has been signaling this direction for months.
Fewer titles mean there is less of a chance for a degenerate like Prince Andrew, now called Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, to slip through. Which means, as I previously reported, Harry and Meghan will lose their titles, as well as Princesses Beatrice and Eugenie.
Do you
Putting out
think
there.
if Kate and William did this, do
You think
that-
they'd ever release it?
If they did,
You think Kate
do you
would
think
release a
people would
twerking
use, would
video,
people use headlines
heavily
like that?
pregnant at the bedside?
Would people say things like
They'd
that?
say
And would
The
that
thing
be
is,
acceptable?
these two will sell.
And now he's saying it louder than ever. He keeps pointing back to past royal situations, especially involving Prince Andrew and Sarah Ferguson, using them as examples of how things can unfold when controversy and royal ties stay closely connected. His stance is clear and hard to ignore. He argues that holding onto a royal identity while stepping away from official duties creates a strain that doesn't just fade over time. Instead, that gap can grow wider, making it more difficult for the institution to manage, especially when public attention keeps building. Morgan is also pointing to what he sees as a shift in energy around Harry and Meghan's business moves. He suggests their major deals aren't landing with the same impact as before, with fewer headline moments and changing public interest. Whether that's fully accurate or not, it's now part of the ongoing conversation. This is where things get even more complicated. A couple still connected to the royal name while building independent paths creates a difficult balance. From Morgan's perspective, that mix brings extra pressure, especially if the royal label continues appearing in high-visibility projects. Adding another layer to all of this is how Prince William is reportedly viewing the situation. According to these reports, the idea isn't about singling out one couple. Instead, it's being described as a broader adjustment that could apply more widely. Names like Beatrice and Eugenie are also being mentioned, pointing toward a larger reset rather than something personal. And that one detail changes everything.
Anything about their privacy.
Things were dealt with a bit more, you could call it aggressively, when it came to errant members of a royal family. You sent them off to war and hoped that war took care of the rest, sort of thing. And so I think in this sort of modern era, you do actually need some way to, discipline may sound like a harsh word, but to share with them, hey, you're part of this. You have to be a situation like Harry, because Harry and Meghan left in part because they thought they could just do whatever the heck they wanted. Nobody was going to tell them no.
Suddenly, this isn't about reactions or personal feelings. It's about structure, rules, and long-term consistency. The focus shifts toward reshaping how titles work going forward. Instead of narrowing in on one situation, Piers Morgan has made his position very clear. He sees this as drawing a firm line for the future of the monarchy. In his view, if titles are meant to carry weight, they should come with clear expectations and limits that actually mean something. Nothing has been officially confirmed yet, but the conversation is getting louder and more specific by the day. What once felt like a distant possibility now feels much closer, with growing attention on what could happen next. If you're not a full-time working royal, then you don't need a royal title. That's the line Piers Morgan keeps repeating, and it's gaining traction as the story grows. He points to Zara Tindall as an example. No title, no complications, just a respected path built independently. Then attention swings right back to Archie and Lilibet growing up in California, far from any official royal role. That comparison is driving the debate right now. If others with royal connections live without titles, why should the situation be different? It's a question more people are asking, and it's not going away anytime soon. And just when things couldn't get more intense, the situation takes another sharp turn. New reports claim Meghan has strongly pushed back in private against any idea of titles being removed. According to those accounts, she's made it clear she wouldn't accept that outcome.
The first thing is that these children are being raised in some type of freak show. You know, it's like they are Michael Jackson's children who were paraded to the world but covered up in masks. Yeah, but then remember, he covered their identities and their faces in masks. You know, so of course they're very likely to be messed up, growing up with such messed up parents who are using them in such a mucked up manner. So that's the first thing I would say.
And reports suggest she could even consider legal options to challenge it. That alone got people talking instantly. Piers Morgan didn't wait around to respond, and his reaction came in sharp and direct. He questioned how that would even work, asking what legal path could actually apply in a situation like this. His point is simple and hard to ignore. Royal titles are granted by the monarchy, which means the authority sits entirely with the crown. There isn't a standard legal route where a court in the US or the UK can step in and reverse that kind of decision. That's exactly why this idea is getting so much attention right now. On the surface, the idea of a legal challenge sounds dramatic and intense, but once you look closer, it becomes far more complicated. The monarchy doesn't operate like a typical legal system where disputes are handled in courtrooms, and that's where a lot of confusion starts to build. Morgan pushes this even further, suggesting that even the discussion of such a move shows just how complex things may be behind the scenes. From his perspective, it highlights a gap between how situations might be approached privately and how these systems actually function in reality. And now the conversation is moving into an entirely new phase, because beyond the titles, beyond the claims, and beyond any legal talk, something else is starting to surface, and it's catching serious attention across royal circles. Piers Morgan is calling this next stage something rarely seen in modern royal history, and that alone is making people take notice fast.
The second thing I would say on the titles is that I think what Prince William is acutely aware of, and this has certainly been my reporting, is that look at what happened when you allowed to run rampant for so many years, chasing the cash.
Apparently, they invited all the royals to Lilibet's christening, but they all declined to come, as if they're all going to get on a plane and fly to California to embrace the people who've been trashing them for the last 3 years. But it looks like from the jungle drums, they had been invited to the coronation, right?
Yeah.
Now, they're holding it out to make it all about them, make it a big drama. So do you think they're actually going to come?
It suggests this situation could be moving into completely new territory, the kind that doesn't just create headlines, but shifts how everything is viewed going forward. Here's where things really start to escalate. Reports claim that senior advisors at Buckingham Palace have quietly begun what's being described as an internal review directly connected to Archie and Lilibet. The focus is said to be on key details, including their birth records and how everything aligns with their position. Connected to the crown, Morgan has a strong view on what this could mean. He argues that the palace doesn't take steps like this without a clear reason. The monarchy operates on structure and long-standing tradition, and it tends to avoid uncertainty wherever possible. So once questions begin to involve official records or details tied to royal standing, the situation quickly becomes much more serious. According to these reports, the review is being handled with close attention. Every detail is expected to be accurate, properly documented, and fully consistent. If anything appears unclear, it naturally brings even more focus, especially in a system where precision has always mattered. One detail getting particular attention is Archie's birth certificate as an official record. It plays a role in confirming identity and placement within the royal structure. These kinds of documents are expected to remain consistent over time.
Even if Harry and Meghan right now are earning their own money, that well is drying up. You've got to take the ability for them to damage the royal family in the future away, and you've got to do that now. You've got to do it swiftly.
So you can't really put them into the Buckingham Palace and say, look, if you feel like doing any work, do it. And if you don't, don't, because that's not going to be a way that Harry doesn't mind that, which is extraordinary. But it's not a way to do that. And I think if they're going to school and you leave them there with a title, Prince and Princess, they're going to get bullied.
A lot of the royal watchers were complaining that they felt like her posts on social media where she barely shows the kids is almost taunting the king, who doesn't know these children, and how unfair this is.
Which is why any reported update quickly draws attention and raises new questions. It's been noted that a change was made months after the original registration, and that's what's catching attention now. Meghan's full name, Rachel Meghan Markle, was reportedly adjusted on the document, with her title listed instead. That kind of update isn't something people usually see in records at this level, which is why it's being discussed so heavily. Morgan focuses on what many have pointed out within royal procedures. Changes like this are expected to follow a clear and formal process. A request is submitted, it's reviewed, approved, and then officially recorded. Every step is tracked, and each update is meant to be properly documented. That's exactly why this detail is drawing so much attention right now. This isn't about whether changes can happen. It's about how specific and unusual this kind of update appears within this setting. Naturally, it leads people to question the timing, the reasoning, and how the process actually unfolded. At the center of all of this is one key idea. The monarchy relies on clarity and structure. Every title, every document, every role is meant to fit into a consistent system. So when something appears to shift, even slightly,
I've got the breaking royal celebrity news. Meghan Markle has changed her name on her son's birth certificate. On the original birth certificate, registered on May 17, 2019, the Duchess gave her name as Rachel Meghan, Her Royal Highness the Duchess of Sussex. Oh, that's quite a name.
There was no racism.
No, none at all, and that was actually quite shameful, what was said at that time.
Let's remember what she said. This is what she told 50 million people around the world. Watch this.
I do recall it and regret it.
It's worth reminding.
The idea of the first member of color in this family not being titled in the same way that other grandchildren would be, it's not their right to take it away.
It was a complete... Hang on, Tessa. It was a complete lie.
Appalling ignorance, and also used in a very, very nasty way to attack people who couldn't answer back.
it tends to trigger closer attention right away. With this reported review now underway, the spotlight is only getting stronger. More people are watching, more details are being examined, and the situation continues to build with each new update that surfaces. And as people started digging deeper, the story only became more unclear. Reports suggest that explanations from both sides don't fully line up. Meghan's team indicated that the palace requested certain changes, while palace sources reportedly said the request came from Meghan's side. No clear agreement, no confirmed public paper trail. Just one updated document and two very different versions of what actually happened. That contrast alone is fueling even more discussion. Then the focus shifts to something even more formal, the official birth announcement process. Royal births are usually handled through a structured and traditional system. There's confirmation of the birth, a medical statement signed by named doctors, and then a palace announcement released in a very specific format. It's all designed to be consistent and clear. But when it comes to Archie...
How does he get there? Omid, surely you as the author, I mean, you must be furious, right? You must be demanding. Heads roll. And you want names, don't you, ironically? Omid, about who did this to you? Who besmirched your reputation as an author? I would, Omid. I'd want to know right now, especially if I was trying to convince the world that I had nothing to do with it myself, and I'd never ever put these names in writing, and maybe some lawyer had come along and told me not to. I mean, that couldn't possibly have happened because you've given us your word, and as I've established so far in this monologue, your word is your bond and should be taken as sacrosanct. Well, I'm going to cut through all this crap. I'm going to tell you the names of the two senior royals. Another lie. And by the way, Meghan, if you don't like me calling you a liar, just sue me and we'll go through all this in court.
That usual pattern has been widely discussed as looking different. Reports at the time created confusion around the timeline, with updates not always matching what many expected. Information didn't come out in a clear sequence, and that led to more questions as people tried to piece everything together. One detail that continues to draw attention is the absence of doctor signatures on the public announcement. In earlier royal births like George, Charlotte, and Louis, those signatures were included as part of the official confirmation. Piers Morgan has highlighted this more than once, saying those signatures serve a real purpose within the process. From his point of view, leaving that step out naturally raises questions since it has traditionally been part of how these announcements are verified. Others see it differently, suggesting it could reflect a more private approach in modern times. Either way, the discussion keeps growing, and the attention around it isn't slowing down. The contrast hasn't gone unnoticed at all. And when it comes to Lilibet, things look even more different. She was born in California, outside the usual royal setting in the UK, and the announcement came through Harry and Meghan's team, instead of following the traditional palace-led process people are used to seeing. No British royal doctors were publicly involved. No classic palace bulletin followed the usual format.
I do now, yeah. I think because it's their currency, isn't it? They've made an awful lot of money, and again, it's their tact by having that association with the royal family.
It's the cachet and cash.
You mentioned sort of, the favoured journalists that they were briefing in the first instance that they weren't going to have titles, and now there's another screeching U-turn. We already had one of the U-turns about the racism.
Fascinating reporting coming from News Nation, the US news channel, and its head of entertainment, Paula Frolic, who reveals Prince William to change the monarchy forever.
And none of the familiar presentation steps were used. That alone makes her situation stand out from what people have historically expected. Right now, reports suggest this is exactly where much of the attention is being directed. When both cases are placed side by side, the differences become much clearer, and naturally, more questions start coming up. All of this is fueling a growing discussion that keeps picking up speed. The details, the timing, and the shifts in how everything was handled are all being examined more closely than ever, and the level of public interest isn't slowing down at all. For a public figure, this kind of approach might seem normal, but for a child connected to the British line of succession, it represents a noticeable move away from long-standing royal protocol. That's why reports suggest the palace is paying such close attention. Then comes the detail that's reportedly drawing the most focus in royal circles right now. When advisors looked into Church of England records connected to Lilibet's christening in California, reports claim no official entry could be found. No registry listing, no confirmation from a bishop, and no acknowledgement from the Archbishop's office being referenced. Piers Morgan speaks very directly on this point. He argues that a royal christening isn't just symbolic or for public moments, it holds a formal place within the structure of the monarchy. It connects a royal child to the Church of England, which has long been closely tied to the crown itself. From that perspective, the absence of a clearly confirmed record starts raising bigger questions. Morgan suggests that if a step like that isn't formally documented, it creates uncertainty about how that connection is recognized within the traditional system. In his view, this goes beyond ceremony. It's about structure, records, and official standing. That's why, based on ongoing reports, the situation is now being examined more closely than ever before. The focus is shifting away from headlines and public moments and moving toward what's happening behind the scenes, the documents, the processes, and whether everything aligns with. Long-established rules are now at the center of attention. While social media may show a polished and carefully managed image, the discussion behind closed doors is set to feel very different. Morgan describes the tone as far more serious, with growing attention on what all of this could mean over time. He keeps returning to one key point. Much of Meghan's public identity, from business ventures to media projects, is closely tied to that royal connection. It brings visibility, influence, and global recognition. But if that connection begins to shift, even slightly, the impact could be significant. Morgan suggests that removing the royal association tied to the children could weaken that overall image. And if titles were ever fully removed, it could change how that identity is viewed in a major way. That's exactly why this moment stands out so much. It's no longer just about opinions or headlines. It's about how every piece connects and what happens if even one part changes. The pressure is rising, the questions are getting more direct, and the situation is moving into territory few expected. Piers Morgan lays it out in a way that immediately grabs attention. He argues that without the Sussex titles attached to every deal and public move, Harry and Meghan would be seen simply as a couple who stepped away from the world's most recognized royal family, then spent years speaking critically about it while building their own projects. In his view, that doesn't present a strong image, but instead comes across more like a complicated situation that raises more questions. He also points to something that often gets lost in the noise. Reports suggest Harry believed that no matter where life took him, even all the way to California, his children would always keep that royal identity, that it was fixed, secure, and not something that could easily change. Now that belief is being challenged in a very real way. According to reports, Harry has tried reaching out to senior members of the royal family as things develop, but those attempts are said to be going unanswered. The explanation being discussed is straightforward. Once matters move into constitutional territory, personal relationships carry much less influence. The reported review is said to be continuing, regardless of outside reactions. Once processes like this begin, they tend to follow a set path. Public comments, interviews, or outside pressure don't easily interrupt that kind of system. Morgan also directs strong criticism toward King Charles. He argues there have been several key moments where firm decisions could have been made, yet no major action followed. He points to events like the Oprah interview, major media deals, and public statements, saying each time the result was the same, no direct step taken. In his view, handling things this way has only made everything more complicated over time. Instead of resolving issues early, he believes they were allowed to build gradually, stacking up until reaching the situation everyone is watching now. From this perspective, that growing pressure is now landing directly on Prince William. The responsibility of setting limits, making firm decisions, and shaping what comes next for the monarchy is being placed right in his hands. Morgan presents William as someone ready for this moment, someone who has watched each development unfold in real time, seeing how one situation led into another, from major interviews to shifting roles. That's why this point feels so important. It's no longer just about reacting to events, it's about choosing the direction forward. The stakes are high, the spotlight is intense, and whatever happens next could influence how the monarchy handles situations like this in the future. Everything now seems to be moving toward a major turning point that could reshape how the system operates behind palace walls. The focus is no longer just on Harry and Meghan as individuals. The conversation has shifted toward protecting the long-term structure of the monarchy itself, maintaining consistency, and ensuring that titles, roles, and public identity all align without creating confusion. Piers Morgan keeps emphasizing that this goes far beyond headlines or personal disagreements. In his view, it's about drawing a clear boundary. Who represents the monarchy? Who benefits from it, and who gets to use its name in public or business spaces? Right now, he argues that line has become unclear, and once that happens, the entire system starts to feel unsettled. What's really adding pressure is the idea that whatever decision comes next won't just affect one family. It could shape expectations for everyone connected to the royal circle. If titles are adjusted or changed here, it sends a strong signal that these are not just symbolic rules, but rules that can actually be applied when needed. Public attention keeps rising, and it's happening fast. Every report, every insider claim, every small detail is being picked apart in real time. People are watching closely, trying to separate what's confirmed, what's speculation, and what might actually happen next. And even without an official statement, the silence itself is starting to stand out. In royal tradition, major decisions are often handled privately before being revealed in a final and controlled way. That's why many believe something important could already be unfolding behind the scenes. Morgan continues to argue that waiting it out isn't a solution anymore. The longer this continues, the more complicated it becomes. More questions start stacking up, and it becomes harder to bring everything back to a clear position. Now all eyes are on what comes next. Will there be a firm move that resets everything? Or will the situation keep building, creating even more uncertainty around roles, titles, and the future direction for everyone involved? One thing is clear, the pressure has reached a point where something has to shift, and whatever happens next won't just close this chapter, it could open a completely new phase for the monarchy. And just when it seemed like things couldn't get more intense, another layer is starting to form that could push everything even further. There's growing discussion that this isn't just about titles or image anymore, it's about control over the royal narrative itself. For years, the monarchy has carefully shaped how its story is told, what gets shared, and what stays private. But that control has clearly been challenged. And now the response is beginning to reflect that shift. Piers Morgan keeps coming back to one central point. Once the narrative moves beyond the institution's control, it becomes much harder to manage. Interviews, documentaries, public statements, all of it has created a version of events that the palace hasn't formally supported. In his view, that's where much of the tension is coming from, because now it's not. It's just about clarifying details. It's about re-establishing authority, deciding what is official, what is recognized, and what truly represents the monarchy going forward. That's a much bigger issue than simply reacting to headlines. At the same time, public opinion is splitting more than ever. Some believe Harry and Meghan have every right to share their story and move forward independently. Others see the continued use of royal ties alongside stepping away from duties as a contradiction that's hard to ignore. That divide is making everything even more complicated. The monarchy doesn't exist in isolation, it moves alongside public support, perception, and trust. When those elements start pulling in different directions, every decision becomes more sensitive and much harder to balance. Morgan suggests that what happens next won't just settle one situation, it could shape how future generations of royals handle independence, public platforms, and personal branding. The rules may evolve, but the real question is how far they can stretch before the structure itself starts to feel weakened, because once that line is crossed, restoring clarity becomes a serious challenge. Right now, all signs point to a quiet but very deliberate adjustment happening behind the scenes. Conversations aren't being rushed into the public, and every step appears to be carefully planned before anything is revealed. That kind of silence isn't accidental. It often signals that something bigger is being worked through step by step. When the palace finally speaks, it likely won't be to test reactions or float ideas. It will be to announce a decision that's already been finalized. And when that moment arrives, it could quickly change how people view everything connected to this situation. The impact wouldn't be small. It would shift the entire direction of the conversation almost instantly. Right now, the spotlight is locked in tighter than ever. The pressure keeps building, and every small development is being watched closely. It feels like everything is leading toward one defining move that could reshape how the story is understood. And now it's reaching a stage where even the silence is becoming part of the story in a major way. The longer there's no official update, the more people begin to believe that something significant is already being finalized behind closed doors. That quiet gap is no longer being ignored. It's being analyzed. In royal tradition, major decisions are rarely rushed. They are carefully prepared, finalized privately, and then revealed with precision. That's why this moment feels so important. The longer the wait continues, the more it suggests that whatever comes next may already be decided, and it's only a matter of timing before it's revealed. Piers Morgan keeps pointing out that this kind of silence often appears right before something decisive happens. Not more debate, not more speculation, but a clear move that's already been set in place. The kind of decision that leaves very little room for pushback once it's announced. What makes this moment even more intense is the timing of everything coming together at once. Media attention hasn't slowed down. Public debate is heating up again, and behind-the-scenes discussions are all happening at the same time. When all of that collides, pressure doesn't just build. It reaches a point where action starts to feel unavoidable. At the center of it all is one major question. What does the monarchy want to become moving forward? A smaller, more controlled institution? A system where titles come with strict expectations that are clearly enforced? Or something more flexible that adapts to modern public life while still holding on to tradition? That decision carries serious weight, because whatever comes next won't just address the current situation, it will shape everything that follows. It will define who holds titles, who can use them publicly, and what responsibilities come with them. And a shift like that doesn't stay contained. It affects the entire royal structure. Morgan's position hasn't changed, and he's making that very clear. He believes a firm and direct decision is now necessary. No mixed signals, no unclear boundaries, just a clear reset that defines exactly where things stand moving forward. As everything builds, attention keeps circling back to Prince William. The focus is now on how he handles a moment that brings together tradition, public pressure, and long-term planning all at once. This isn't just about easing tension. It's about choosing a direction that could shape the future of the monarchy in a lasting way. Outside the palace, the noise isn't fading at all. It's getting louder by the minute. Every detail is being analyzed. Every new report sparks fresh reactions, and people around the world are watching this unfold in real time. The attention hasn't dropped for a second, and if anything, it's only becoming more intense. There's a growing sense that something major could happen at any moment. Not just more talk, but a real shift that could completely change how the situation is viewed. That anticipation is building fast, and it's becoming impossible to ignore. Because once a decision like this is revealed, there's no easy way to reverse it. The lines will be clearly drawn, the structure will become more defined, and everything connected to this story will move into a completely new phase. It won't just adjust the conversation, it will reset it entirely. Now there's increasing belief that the next update could be the one that changes everything people thought they understood. The kind of moment that forces a full rethink, not just small adjustments. That's why so many are watching so closely right now. Behind all the headlines and public debate, something much bigger appears to be forming. A reset of boundaries. Not just about who holds a title, but who truly represents the monarchy in today's world. That line hasn't been clearly redrawn in a long time. And now it feels like it's finally being addressed. Piers Morgan keeps stressing that once a boundary like this is set, it won't stay limited to one situation. It becomes the standard moving forward, shaping expectations for everyone connected to the royal circle. That's exactly why this moment feels so important. It's not just about Harry and Meghan, it's about the rules that could apply to everyone next. What makes this moment even more intense is how uncertain the outcome still feels. There isn't just one clear path forward. There are multiple directions this could take, and each one sends a completely different signal. A stricter move would show control and firm structure, while a more flexible approach would suggest the monarchy is adapting to modern pressures. Either way, the decision will reveal how situations like this are likely to be handled going forward. And at the same time, this pressure isn't staying behind palace walls, it's global. Millions of people are watching, forming opinions, choosing sides, and reacting instantly to every new detail. This is no longer a quiet internal matter. It has become a worldwide conversation that keeps gaining momentum. Morgan points out that with this level of attention, delaying a decision becomes harder and harder. The longer uncertainty remains, the more space it creates for speculation to grow. And once speculation starts filling the gaps, it becomes much harder to guide how the story is understood. There's also another layer that's becoming impossible to ignore: trust. Not just between individuals, but within the structure itself and how it's perceived moving forward. But between the monarchy and the public, every move now carries extra weight. It's shaping how consistent, transparent, and reliable the institution looks to people watching from the outside. Right now, everything feels like it's balanced on a fine edge. One decision could bring clarity and direction, or it could open the door to even more questions and debate. That's the challenge with moments like this. There's no outcome that doesn't come with impact. At the same time, the pace is clearly picking up. What once felt distant now feels immediate, like something that could unfold at any second. The shift from speculation to action feels closer than ever. And that's exactly why attention is locked in so tightly right now, because when the next update finally lands, it won't feel like just another headline. It will hit like a turning point, the kind of shift that makes everyone pause, take a second look, and rethink where this entire story is heading next. This won't be small, and it won't go unnoticed. At this stage, one thing is becoming very clear. This won't be driven by emotion. It will be handled with careful precision. The priority, based on everything being discussed, is protecting the institution above all else, because the future matters here. George, Charlotte, and Louis will one day step into these roles, and the decisions being made right now are shaping the system they will inherit. That's why the stakes feel so high. So where could this all lead? According to those closely following the reported review, 3 possible outcomes are being talked about right now, and each one carries serious weight with very different consequences. The first option is what some are calling a quiet freeze. Titles would still exist officially on paper, but they wouldn't be actively used or highlighted in any major way. No big announcements, no sudden changes, just a slow fade from relevance over time. A subtle shift that doesn't draw too much attention but still changes the reality behind the scenes. The second option is even more low-key. A quiet reclassification, no major headlines, no formal public statements. Instead, names could gradually disappear from official platforms, with Archie and Lilibet positioned more as private individuals, completely outside of any working royal role. It's subtle, but the long-term impact could still be significant. Then there's the third option, the one Piers Morgan believes could be a real possibility: a formal removal. If the review determines that certain protocols or standards weren't properly followed, the Crown has the authority to step in and act. No drawn-out process, no public back and forth, just a clear decision made to protect the structure and rules of the system. Each of these paths sends a very different message. And that's why this moment feels so important, because whichever direction is chosen won't just resolve the current situation, it will define how the monarchy handles issues like this moving forward, setting a tone that could last for years. And just when it feels like all possibilities are already on the table, another question starts to take over. What happens after the decision is made? Because no matter which direction is chosen, the aftermath could be just as impactful as the move itself. Attention is now shifting toward the ripple effects that would follow any major change. If titles are reduced, redefined, or fully removed, it won't stay contained within palace walls. It will echo across media, public opinion, and future royal decisions. The reaction could be immediate, and it could reshape how people engage with the monarchy moving forward. Piers Morgan has hinted that the real story doesn't end with the decision. It actually begins there. In his view, the response from Harry and Meghan would become the next major chapter. Would they stay silent, or would they speak out and challenge the narrative? That uncertainty is adding even more tension to an already intense situation. At the same time, there's growing focus on how the public might respond long-term. Some may see firm action as a sign of strength and structure, while others could view it as too rigid in a modern world. That balance between tradition and change is right at the center of everything unfolding right now. There's also the global factor that can't be ignored. This isn't just a UK story, it's being followed worldwide, with different audiences interpreting every move in their own way. That means whatever happens next won't just define internal royal dynamics, it will shape the monarchy's global image in a major way. And now everything feels like it's building toward one moment of confirmation. The silence, the reports, the rising pressure, it all points to something being finalized behind the scenes. The only question left is when it will be revealed and how strong the impact will be when it finally drops. Piers Morgan's position hasn't changed, but now it carries even more weight. In his view, the monarchy continues no matter who steps in or steps away. Individuals may come and go, but the institution remains steady and intact. And while Harry and Meghan have built a life and public image closely tied to that royal connection, the ultimate authority still rests with the crown. Because when it comes down to it, all it takes is one decision from the top to shift everything instantly. Years of branding, carefully built narratives, and public positioning could all be reshaped in a single moment if that call is made. That's what makes this situation feel so intense. The power to change everything is always there. Now the real question hits harder than ever. How should this actually be handled? Should everything be brought fully into the public eye with complete transparency, or handled quietly behind closed doors, following tradition and control without outside noise? People are split, opinions are strong, and the debate isn't slowing down anytime soon. Everyone is watching, everyone is questioning, and the next move could leave a lasting mark on how situations like this are handled in the future. So now it's your turn. What do you think should happen next? Drop your thoughts in the comments right now. And if you want more breakdowns like this, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video so you stay updated on everything that unfolds. See you on the next one.